No one ever talks about, wow, that pilot did a great job because everything just went super smooth. Welcome to the Superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today in my basement, I'm going to be talking to you about the Superpilotish five tips and most important things that I think about that are most important about doing a pre flight inspection. So, what is a pre flight inspection? It's an inspection of the aircraft that you do before your flight. There you go. Wikipedia describes it. Webster's dictionary describes it as, everybody starts out their videos like that. The definition of this is blah, blah, blah. Sounds kind of like AI or something, but I'm a little less formal that way. So the reason I was thinking about this topic, and it's hard for me to come up with topics without being repetitive. I was going to talk about garlic today, but I already did one last year on planting garlic. Oh, hey, Nunya and Nefarious, good to see you here. Yeah, I went flying on the weekend and out at the local aviation museum here. I'm sort of slowly picking away at getting checked out in an old de Havilland Chipmunk is the name of the plane. 1950s Air Force trainer. And anyways, I went flying and I did a pre flight inspection on the old bird and I found some water in the gas. Now that was weird because I've probably checked fuel tanks. There's a way that you check your fuel tanks on your airplane for any type of contamination. There's a little sump at the bottom. You can either use a cup or a little, I don't know, some sort of container, depending on the type of aircraft that you have. And you drain a little bit of gas out of the bottom of the gas tank, and it'll go into your little container, and it's clear, and you can see aviation fuel that I use is blue. They tint it blue, and if you're using jet fuel, that would be it's basically diesel fuel, right? So it would look like that, and just like if you notice if you got like a puddle after it rains and you see that kind of rainbow looking oil slick on top of the puddle. Oh, so because like petroleum products are lighter than water, so the water goes on the bottom and your gas or oil or whatever it is goes on the top. So I was draining a little bit of this gas out of here. There was a lot of clear there. It should have been all blue, and that's weird. And then I showed it to the chief pilot out there at the museum, and he's like, "Well, that's weird." So we kept draining it, and there was a whole bunch of water in the gas. And it's like, "Whoa, super pilotish avoided an engine failure." Thank you. But the weird thing, the weird thing about that was that I've drained, I don't know how many thousands of times I've like drained a little bit of gas out of there, and then you dump it in a little bucket or something for to get rid of it or put it through your lawnmower. But it's like, I'm just trying to think how many thousands of times I've done that. Probably at least 2,000 times. Two tanks per airplane, or maybe sometimes five on a plane. It's like I've done it lots. And I've never really come up with any water to speak of. I think I might have had just a hint of it when the cap of the tank, it was a big rainstorm, and the seal on the cap was just starting to go a bit. So there's just a hint of water. But I mean, this was enough to cause an engine failure. I'm like, whoa. So it just goes to show you that how important the pre-flight inspection is. Oh, hey, Shecky, I see you in here too. And yeah, it is like out of the thousands of times I've done that, this is the one time that it's like, whoa, that could have been bad. So, anyways, yeah. So I thought, okay, let's talk about what I think is the most, in the super pilotish opinion, the most important things to check on your pre-flight inspection. So basically, on a pre-flight inspection, let me get the old KD12X out here. Got to have your training aid if you're a flight instructor. So yeah, so basically, no matter what airplane you're flying, your whether it's even big jets and stuff like that, usually it's the co-pilot that goes out in the bad weather, and that you see him looking around the nacelles of the jet engine, or they might have a flashlight if it's nighttime, just to see if there's anything, any covers for that they put on things after maintenance, or just checking the plane out for things and brakes and tires. So basically, all you do on every airplane, you go and you go kind of all the way around the airplane. You just take a walk. That's why they call it a walk around. You walk around the whole airplane, and you basically check everything out, including your fuel, usually in each tank or each wing. They have separate tanks there a lot of the times, and the engine. Check the oil. So I would say that the fuel is, I would say, number one, because if you don't have any gas, you can't like fly. If you run out of gas, so you're when you're checking your fuel, you're looking for contaminants, like I found, which is really rare. One in a couple thousand, but you catch it if you have good habits like that. And so you're checking for that, and you're checking for quantity too. So there is a way that the guys on the big jets, they have a way of actually checking the amount of fuel in the tank, like just from outside. It's kind of a funny little magnetic, kind of weird floaty thingamajiggy that sticks out the bottom of the wing. But I've never actually done it or really seen it, but I was studying about that for my ATPL exams. But yeah, so every airplane out there, there is a way of you checking, so you don't have to rely on the fuel gauges if you have an electrical failure and they stop working or something like that. So it's yeah, there you go. Fuel number one, check your quantity and check for contamination, because it's rare, but it can happen. And okay, the next thing there would be checking your oil. And I am writing these, I did write them down. I will summarize at the end. Oil, we're checking for make sure that we have enough in there. Usually, most little airplanes will consume a little bit of oil, or if it's an old if it's an old plane, it'll just get blown out of vents and stuff. It's all these old these warbirds and stuff, and you go by, I don't know, underneath like a B-17, you look under these great big radial engines. There's just tons of oil just spraying out all over the place. They didn't really care back then too much about that. So there's they naturally leak oil, and everything's all loosey goosey, so you're burning a little bit there too, and so you will consume oil on your little airplane. And so you have to top it up. Some take a lot more than others, and then you also got to make sure you have the right kind in there. If you are doing your flight test, your examiner will ask you, how do you know what type of oil to put in there? So most people say, oh, at the flight school, I just look up on the board, they post it up there. And then the examiner says, I know because I've said it when I was an examiner. And then you'd say, how would you know? And then the student or the the candidate for the flight test starts sweating and they don't know what to do. And so usually what they'll do is they'll write that down in the journey log. They'll say oil change at the last maintenance. They will say what type of oil they put in, the brand and the viscosity, and then you just use that off of the last maintenance or annual inspection, usually for privately owned airplanes. So yeah, and we got that oil, and then your brakes too. I have had it where I did have a brake failure in an airplane once when I was taxiing it, and it was kind of like a little lack of knowledge, but I was like, or I had one brake fail. So on the rudder pedals, I think I described it last time that there's your on your right rudder pedal that controls your right brake, on your left rudder pedal that controls your left brake. And then so I had one of those fail. So if that ever happens, you stop and then the plane will spin around on you. But I was going really slow and it was getting mushy, and I thought that might happen, and it did. And I managed to stop it with basically one brake. But luckily, I was going pretty slow. But I also didn't know that it turns out the other the other set of brakes was going fine. So, anyways, it was a new type of airplane to me. I didn't know exactly how the braking system worked, but everything worked out cool. So check those brakes. They can fail. They usually get mushy first before they totally fail. You can also look, if there's any brake fluid leaking around. That's an indicator that your brakes are going to fail at some point. And you can also check out the brake pads. Usually they don't wear out. They can get pretty squeaky, but still work. And so we're talking about brakes. Next thing is tires, and I'll show you. I'll have a nice black tire marker here. My cheap dollar store marker. We'll see if it works. Might have to get it and spend another buck. Ooh, cheap pilot. Yeah, so if you have what can happen on airplanes a lot of the times, especially on like little airplanes. Okay, there's your tire. What was that movie where someone thought it was like a great idea? I got this great idea. It was like this circle, Hudsucker proxy or something like that. So what happens is people are landing, and here we are on the ground. Well, actually, no. So what happens is you can people if they start putting on the brakes too early before the weight of the airplane, like when you're flying, all the weight of the airplane is carried by the wings. Then when you land, the weight of the airplane transfers from the wings to the wheels. So if you're just coming in on the runway, you're still going pretty fast. So there's a bit of lift there from the wings. So you don't have all that weight on the wheels, and it's real easy to skid them. And I am exaggerating massively here, but this can happen. You start skidding them like that, and then you'll wear a flat spot on it. And I have seen it on a brand new tire, and they could wear down like about probably a half inch of rubber, just like laying on one brake or something and just screeching it down there and just wearing it off the pavement. And if that happens, the point at which your tire will be no good is we'll put some lines in here. Yeah, so there'll be a little flat spot. We'll say that's the bottom of your tire there, and then you got your groovy grooves on your tire here too. And if you see these it'll be kind of like a little mesh. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of like a little crisscross mesh on the bottom of the tire where it got worn out. And if you see that, that is an unairworthy tire. So that can blow on you. That's just about to go flat. So you don't want to be landing with flat tires. That can put you into the weeds. So check those tires for flat spots. And it's funny how many people don't, because I've done that before where a student, I ask, well, how's the plane? Oh, everything's fine. And I walk out and I see one of these things on the tire. And I say, what's that? Then the student turns all red in the face. Oh my God, I didn't see it. It's like, yeah, that's what you don't want to see. That gets expensive if you do that on your own airplane. I know a guy, he had a Mooney and he got some new tires for it. And he put two great big patches like that on there because he wanted to get off at the first exit and just laid on the brakes a little too soon. And dude had to spend a few $100 worth of tires there. So it gets expensive. Propeller is the next one. So the thing about number 5, propeller. Yeah, so we are always checking out before we go flying the condition of the propeller. So what can happen is if you're, I don't know, you can maybe like pick up a rock or something like that. And you'll see this on float planes, is that because the propeller is going, I don't know, kind of on a float plane, the propeller is only like, I don't know, not too far off of the water. And then what happens is there's all that wind and splash and everything like that. So if there's it's picking up water mist, excuse me. And so if the propeller is going around, the tip of the propeller is going about the same, all just under the speed of sound. On float planes, it'll actually break it for a little bit. So that's really fast. And then it hits this water and it's just like hitting sand or something. You'll see these little pits in the very ends of the propeller. And that's usually not a big deal, but it can get kind of thin. So they have to measure the thickness of the propeller every year. And eventually, sometimes like the propeller will look fine and they measure it. It's like sandpaper just sanded it off kind of thing. So it's too thin. They get a new propeller. And yeah, you can find what can we do here? Oh, I will show you. So last episode, I was kind of talking about a spinner. Okay, this is not exactly the best propeller in the world. I wouldn't trust that going at the speed of sound, but here's your propeller. And so on the tips here, whoop, that's where you get that little pitting. Watch out for that. And then as it spins around too, on the leading edge of the propeller, sometimes you could pick up a little rock or something. And I'll blow this up. So here's the end of your propeller. It's a square one, something like that. So you can get like a little chip in the end of it here, like that, and you can usually feel it with your thumb. Usually, if it's like, I don't know, about eighth of an inch or less, wouldn't worry about it too much, and they can file that out. But what happens if you don't take care of it is that eventually this little crack, if you don't file it out and make it nice and smooth, uh, a crack will start growing off the end like that. And then what happens is when this thing's going right around the speed of sound, this kind of breaks off, and then your propeller's all out of balance and all out of whack. So I know a guy that happened to. He managed to land though. It was just his propeller was just old and kind of flew apart on him. He shaking the engine off the. It will shake the engine right off the mounts if it's shaking that much. So he shut the engine down, landed on a beach. Actually, did okay. Another thing to watch out for, especially coming around this time of year, we're getting into rain, freezing rain, snow, stuff like that. So if you find that your plane is parked outside like this, and maybe it's a bunch of rain, and then the rain drips on the top. Yeah, this marker is starting to die on me. Okay, rain is blue. We'll switch over to blue. There you go, dollar store. You get what you pay for. And yep. So here's your raindrops falling down here. And it might just kind of get in, and then it drips around here. Then what happens is that it can drip around there, and it goes on the inside, and it makes a little puddle here. So here's my little puddle. I might have drawn this before. So there's your puddle of water in your propeller at the very bottom. Now what happens, not really a huge deal if it's just water, because it'll once the prop starts up, it'll just shoot out the ends here because it's not totally airtight, watertight around the spinner. But if that turns into ice because it freezes overnight, now you start up your engine. Now you got all this weird weight. It's all you're out of whack, and you can damage the spinner that way. And I have seen a spinner damaged that way, and it just cracks it. You got to buy a new one. And I'm surprised actually it didn't like I started up a plane, like it'll noticeably vibrate, and that puts a lot of strain on the crankshaft and on the bearings and stuff in there. So yeah, so you're checking for that too. Sometimes you can, I don't know, take a look in there and see, oh, there's a bunch of ice. You can kind of look in through here. But anyways, that's something to watch out for. And cracks. Everything else is like very visible. Wow, there's a great big dent there from where the gas truck hit the plane. Okay, I'm not going to fly it. So yeah, so there's my 5 superpilotish 5 tips, which are handily written down on whiteboard number 2 with lots of ghosting. I think this was the dollar store one. So check your fuel, oil, brakes, tires, and propeller in that order, in the superpilotish order. But you're checking that anyways. But I would say those are the most important. I never really prioritized anything, but you should be checking them all equally. But that's I bet you most of your incidents and accidents are happened in that order. I didn't do the research, but makes sense to me. So anyways. Okay, so that is about it for the pre-flight inspections. And yeah, so anyways, we're gonna do yeah, we'll see if there's any questions, comments, anything like that. Yeah, none of your business is losing his mind again. That's okay. Or is he? I don't know. I haven't read anything. All right. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, so everybody's just kind of saying hello. Wrench is saying if my tire was that shape, yeah, wouldn't be that great. Okay. Nunya thinks that square tires would be great, and I think you've been watching too much Flintstones there, bud. So, anyways, what do we got here? All right, so this is a question here. You have to look at the whole tire to see that see that which requires rolling. Yeah, what would the chances be if that flat spot was right on the bottom and you couldn't see it? There is a chance of that. So what I have found is if you have okay, like if it's that bad and you got a tire that's like pretty good, solid tire, what'll happen is I'll get out another KD Mark II. Okay, so say you got your Cessna 172, and I've seen this before too, where I think it actually was like maybe you didn't look at it too much, but no, that's it. There have been flat spots that I've felt, but it was still legal. Okay, so this is your way of detecting it while you're taxiing. What'll happen is this: if you look out the window on either side and you see one of your wheels is just bouncing like crazy off the one of your main gears, and you're taxiing, and it's just like shaking. It'll actually kind of shake front to back a little bit if you have a big flat spot on there. So if you see that main gear shaking all over the place, might be worth it to kind of stop and just kind of take a glance at it and see. You'd probably be able to see it from your window in the cockpit. But yeah, that's I don't know. I really wouldn't roll the airplane, but if you want, there's nothing wrong with that. It's you'd only have to push it, like push the plane, like I don't know, whatever, 4 inches, 5 inches, or something like that, enough to rotate the tire and take a look. If you want to do that, that's a great idea. I never really have, but like that's one of those rare things. But yeah, it's that's why you're an engineer, Wrench. You think about all these little things. And have I ever flown a jet? No, I haven't. No, I've just always kind of been a flight instructor on little airplanes. Yeah, I've studied like how jets work, kind of thing, but never actually flown one. Okay. Okay, here we go. Wrench is wondering about dresser tires are about a third less than Goodyear and Michelin. Are they okay? I've never actually owned an airplane, so I think let me think. There's something there I know where you can get a dresser tire. I don't know if you're talking about it's kind of like a retread that they do. Where I worked at before, it was everything had to be maintained to a commercial standard, and they just always kind of used name brand certified parts. I think, or is it Desser, not Dresser? Oh yeah, Desser tires. Yeah, maybe I'll Google that right now to see what that is. Desser tire. Mr. Google, tell me all about Desser tires. Aircraft tires and tubes for sale. Desser Aerospace. Okay. All right. Let's shop for tires and tubes. Live time research. Well, they stock all major aircraft OEM tire brands, including Dunlop, Goodyear, Michelin, Condor. Huh. Tundra tires. Oh, they sell Tundra tires there too. Specialty Tire of America. Huh. Okay, just looking at the website really quick. As usual, Wrench, my answer is I don't know. How's that for you? Couldn't tell you. That would be something I'd talk to your mechanic about that if you really want to know. Okay. All right. We're still screwed. Yep, there we go. I think I do deserve a brand new Cessna. I will totally be a corporate whore for Cessna if they buy me one and I get to fly it around and I do live streams from my Cessna. I will be that corporate whore if they give me that plane. I don't think it's gonna happen though. All right. Okay. There we go. Checky's here sipping strong coffee. That is awesome. Got to stay awake. Okay, so that's about it for today. All right, today and then yeah, did I tell you I was gonna plant garlic today? I was gonna do a show on it, but I already did a show on it last year, so I'm gonna be planting garlic after a little post production on this video, and yeah, and that is about it. So today is Monday. So that means I'll be back Wednesday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. It will just kind of shut her down. So thank you for watching, guys. Bye.